Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wind up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank J23 for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. My guest today is Darnell Brunson. Dr. Darnell Brunson is a leader in youth development, a mental health advocacy, and the arts. As the founder of Leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center, he has dedicated his career to empowering young people through education, creativity, and leadership training. With a background in clinical counseling and years of experience in community service, he's passionate about creating opportunities for underserviced youth. Dr. Brunson's work bridges the gap between education, mental health, and the arts, helping to shape the next generation of leaders. And I totally love this mission, and that's why I wanted him to have on the show. Darnell, welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
Welcome. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, Deepak. I really appreciate you having us on today. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, and like I said, I love the mission. Obviously, most people know, most of the audience know. I have young daughters. They're just getting into, well, one's a teenager now, one's going to be a teenager pretty soon. So
Awesome.
That's super important to me. So I'm super excited to have you on the show. I like to start off with like asking my guests, and you can go as far back or as deep as you want. How did you get into this, and why are you so passionate about it?
Well, I really have to lean in on my parents, giving me opportunity young around music, around the arts, plays in the community, plays at churches and schools that I grew up in. It was really a part of my community. And it really helped shape my thoughts about the world and culture, helped me, meet people outside of my normal comfort zone. And without the arts, I think life would have been different in my trajectory of my pathways had I not been into music and theater and the arts when I was young.
So that's the thing, a great segue. So you started in the arts as a theater major. So how did
Yeah.
that experience shape you?
Well, and actually, no, well, actually, music first.
Oh, music first. Okay.
Music was the innate ability inside. I was born with that rhythm and that love for music, and so cultivated with my mom being in the choir at church and being around music and around the band and around the musicians young. It really helped, shape me. And my first job as a 11-year-old, turning 11-year-old, was on staff drummer and percussionist at a church that my mom, grew up in. And that was my first job. I actually got paid for that job every 2 weeks. And that's kind of my informal training, I would call it, just innate gifting with music. And then at the Baltimore School for the Arts is where I got my formal training with the theater arts, which included some music and voice and musical theater, but mostly theater.
Awesome. Got it. So thank you. So we have that in common. We both started like working. I mean, you weren't working for your mom, you're working at the church. I was working for my parents, but both about the same time, 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
And actually, as I'm going to go on a sidebar for a second, Dermell, I don't know if I told you this, and we had a pre-conversation that my sister is actually a professional musician. So she's got
Wow.
all that artistic talent in our family. I don't. I have none. So I think I'm a decent writer, but anyway. But no, thank you for
Good.
clarifying that. So how did that experience then lead you to be, down the path of creating Leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center?
So, those seeds were planted early. Again, graduating from a conservatory model, high school, arts high school, one of the top 5 in the country, but the Baltimore School for the Arts. That really shaped a lot for me, just being in that environment around artists, for basically 7 years of my life. You think 2 years in an after school program, 2 to 3 years after school program as a middle schooler. And then I went there for my high school career. And so from there, I worked in the community through church work, serving youth leader, youth pastor, working with, other artists, but more so on the service side and foster care and being a counselor. And in that experience, I noticed that young people weren't getting a lot of arts enrichment in their academic programs and their summer programs. And I thought we could help, fill that gap.
Awesome. I love the mission. Everyone who's going to listen is going to love that mission. What challenges then? I would imagine there's challenges. And I'd love to hear from you that you face, maybe still face, bringing arts education to those underserved communities that you work with.
Yeah, I think A lot of the challenges are things that exist for most businesses, and especially most small businesses or small nonprofits in any space, especially in the arts. And that's going to be connected to, funding and financing and, grant support and philanthropic support and being able to overcome bureaucratic and systemic challenges that prevent, good enrichment programs from reaching ongoing to the hearts and minds of young people in the inner city and urban areas, suburban and rural. And so any of that is normally the challenge we've had to overcome from beginning our journey, but also even now, we're still in a fight to ensure that young people have equitable access to the performing and creative arts as a part of their development.
Yeah, I definitely see that a little bit, even in the school system that my kids go to as well. And I would certainly wouldn't say we are an underserved community by any means, but I think that's just there's been an assault on the arts, and I would also even throw in like physical education as well.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, we're talking about the arts here. I would
Yep.
love for you to share with the audience, maybe one, maybe a couple, maybe one specific moment where you just really realized, the power that arts education can impact someone's life outside of your own. Obviously, it's affect yours, but like, was there like
Yes.
one like early case study student that you're just like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing?
Well, it's so many, that you see naturally. I guess my answer for that would be the natural progression of growth, maturity, you know, working in teams, self-awareness, because, the way we're approaching it is from a strengths-based model. We want to accuse young people of doing well. We want to tell them good things about themselves. And the arts gives, adults a great opportunity to build the esteem of young people, right? Because you get to engage them in something that's expressive and validate, right, the power that's moving through them in any artistic expression, whether it's visual art or music or dance or theater. It's an opportunity to validate a young person over and over and over and over and over again, which is only great for their inner morale and belief in any field they end up going into. And so we've seen it in multiple programs. There are young people, including those that have been even in my family, my godson and others that he just graduated from the University of San Francisco this past year. He, was a student and a participant in our summer programs early on. And these young people find new pathways to the arts, right, in high school or in the collegiate world, or begin their own entities, begin their own art serving modalities. And so we see also our instructors, which are the backbone and heartbeat of the organization, those teaching artists and arts educators that we hire, bring in, and train up to work in our programming. We often see the connection between those instructors and the students' parents, for helping them to find new opportunities to express themselves in the arts beyond our program. And so it's just been a wonderful journey, Deepak, just how many different young people we've seen continue that process.
I love that, and I just want to underpoint something that I think um, anyone listening, I don't want them to miss this point. So, I think most people or many people are well aware of like youth sports, participation in youth sports of providing, leadership skills and all these types of things that, but I was like, you can get that in the arts too, right? So like I think that's I really want to highlight that, like you just said, because I don't think, it depends where you live, like certain sports are more popular in certain areas and certain parts of the country, or like I'm just going to pick on Texas, for example, like, like footballs, like every whatever, right? Like that's all great. But if that's not your child's natural inclination, like they can get the same type of leadership skills and all this stuff from the arts as well. So I just really want to highlight that that you
Absolutely.
shared for the audience there. Obviously, you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier that starting your youth center and all the challenges. Um, has there ever been a time when you're like, maybe it was early on, maybe it still happens, I don't know, where you're like, are we going to make this? Is Leaders for Tomorrow Youth Center gonna survive? We're going to succeed? Like, I'm sure you. I mean, I'm a small business owner. I've sometimes
Yeah.
those doubts crop into my own business once in a while. So I'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Because I mean, it's, you're doing it from a place for something this for me, it's from a place of love. You quickly learn the hard way that it turns very swiftly into business. And now you're balancing out as a leader, you're balancing out the love and the passion with all the things that come with the business, right? And that becomes the dynamic, right? That balance. And so again, for our post, that happens regularly. That's been happening with me recently. I've been thinking, hey, what would I need to do if if I decided to transition this in a different way, right? Or because the challenges are often vast, and as you mentioned it, even in your community, the arts are normally the first thing that are going to get cut when you think about your kids going to school and the school systems there. So we know that that's the uphill battle, but you had the doubt, like you mentioned, you had the doubt, where you go, should we be doing this? And that's when you have to look for the still small, quiet voice. You have to look for the small, subtle reassurances, uh, good things that people would say about the program, providers, parents, staffing. You get feedback, it helps to keep you going. Or when you continuously know and see the gap you're filling and where the need is, it makes you want to do it every day because you know it's needed. That's something that can help push and drive. But I would be lying if I told you that every day is a sunny day and that every day is, hey, we're gonna make it. Some days it's like, no, we're totally gonna make it. There's no way. And there's other days like, we're totally not gonna make it. It's no way that this can be right. It's too many things against us. But then that I quickly snap out of it,
Right.
because again, oftentimes there's some thing that gets said. It's amazing how in my belief system the way God works, because I'll get a text message from someone or email will come through or something positive or hear something on the news or bump into someone or just the smallest thing. I could be wearing this hoodie or out and I've seen that somewhere. Hey, what do you guys do? Arts education. Oh, that's great. Keep up the good work. Something small that I'll have to process and use as fuel on the days where I think, man, it's too many challenges. I don't know if we can make it.
Yeah, I heard. It's the same with me when I see, obviously a little bit of a different business model, but when I see the results of my clients and then the impact that has in their lives and their families' lives, that's the fuel that yeah, we got to keep going. We got to keep doing this. Got to keep getting the message out. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Kind of along that same theme. Obviously we touched on a couple times. Arts might be the first things that are cut, or it's viewed as extracurricular. How do you challenge that mindset, whether they be educators, parents, policymakers, that the arts is essential not only for your core education but also for people's personal growth or children's
Yeah.
personal growth?
Yeah, it's still a journey to communicate that. I think we're learning it more and more when you think of uh, work around social and emotional learning, and folks looking at how to approach the development of what the whole child, right? Not just academically or not just athletically, but like you mentioned, and emotionally, socially, the arts provide opportunities for all of that. The arts are also always going to support higher academic achievement just because of the cognitive and the ability to express and create oftentimes will spark the brain in a way that allows you to receive information differently. And so it can impact your academic success totally if you allow it and it cultivates. But then when you think of the physicality of a theater or dance or other movement programs in the arts also helps. We've supported phys ed programs before in our growth, periods in Baltimore City, where there was a need to enhance a phys ed program or supplement a phys ed program in an inner city schools, and we would bring dance or bring movement or yoga or some form of other expressive arts programming so that young people could get the physical activity as well as that group activity. But you can't deny the group activity breeds social growth and interpersonal skill building, and it's self-reflective. The arts as a whole, whether you're painting, whether you're a creative writer, whether you are a culinary artist, media art, what you're doing in that expressive, to see your work and be able to have feedback instantly and strength-based approach from your teachers and educators and leaders promotes a sense of self-wellness. And so we know that the arts are also a healthy outlet for young people to learn young, that can help balance their lives. Every young person might not take to an art form solely for hobby or career building or for legacy building because they want to make it around their whole life. They might just use the arts as a healthy coping outlet,
Good point.
right? For just, things happening in life that affect all of us, right? And so that's also where the real, loving point is that the earlier we can get young people tapping into their arts ability and their creative expression, the better off we are with young people who can communicate, social and emotionally healthy. They can become well-rounded, whole, successful people that are able to balance their emotions, able to express themselves in a healthy way, and also able to work well with others.
It didn't even occur to me until just like 2 seconds ago, the day of we're recording. So, I'm not sure when this episode is going to come out. Obviously, you're the audience, you're listening or watching this now. It's released. We recorded this sometime in the past, as we all do. The day that I'm here with Darnell recording this, I'm actually going on to do volunteering at my school's work for a fundraiser, and it just clicked to me, like some of the monies for this fundraiser goes to enrichment programs at our school that's not otherwise part of the curriculum. In the past, it's been a dance residency, another sort of art residency. So again, like as a parent counselor, as a community at large, we have to supplement these things to enrich our children's lives. And yeah, it just dawned on me, like, I guess it was fate that we recording today, the day that I'm doing
It
this.
it is, and it's inspiring to me because, we're in a season. This is sharing season for us from March 1st through June 1st, where we are intentionalizing our master classes for young people, student performances, and field trips. And so it's also alignment with you mentioning the fundraiser because that's the spirit that we're in always. Of course, that's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're always looking for donations and fundraising opportunities and donors. But specifically in this season, as spring is coming in, it's really important for us to get young people, as many as we can, out to experience a play or a recital or a concert or an art museum or an art project in the community, in the elements, right? And so we're also fundraising too for that same enrichment piece that you're talking about. So that's a good sign. We're on the right path.
Yeah, you made me think of something else here. I do have a couple more questions I want to get to, but actually this coming weekend, so in our family, every month we rotate. We get to do something as a family, but we have one person picks. So this month it's my daughter's birthday month, but she chose. So this coming Saturday we're going to go for dinner as a family, and then we're going to go watch one of her good friends from school who's in a community theater group. So we're going to go watch her play. So that's our monthly
That's great.
family activity. So yeah, that just reminded me of that. Um,
Amazing.
what is one of the biggest lessons you've personally learned about resiliency and leadership going through this journey of building Leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center?
Well, one thing is you learn that when you are an active leader, especially in any movement or organization or business or family or anything, um, it's not all it's cracked up to be when you have to be the one to make the final call and decision. It's not, it's not as fun as one would often think when you aren't in that position. And so the resiliency part has been a lesson learned through just adversity and seeing again if we stick to something that there's another side to it that we can overcome when you look back and say, wait, I remember when we didn't have that contract and we worked for it, or, even for what we do in Baltimore City schools, they didn't immediately accept the idea of us bringing teaching artists into the school day. I had to pitch that for 2 years, right? We had to do pro bono work, right? And so the resiliency of that then showed us that any other thing that we had as a challenge, we can overcome as well. And so that's back to that question you asked earlier about days that you think you don't, should I shut it? When you think, should I move on from this or should we shut? Are we doing the best we can? Is it better to just leave it alone and let someone else take the baton? And then you think of those times where you overcame a challenge or the challenge transitioned itself away or right, or it fizzed itself out, or you learned swiftly that the sun still comes up every day, right? And that if you're alive and you're healthy, you have a new opportunity to tackle it and go after it. It starts to breed a level of resilience, in you. And so, but you got to allow it to happen. So for us and for myself personally, I've just been allowing it to happen. And the lessons that come the hardest are often through people. It's the you can't do anything important, especially in this service, human service, arts education work, without a group of minds, of hive minds, of people coming together
Right.
to, really ensure that there is, collective, collaborative usage of everyone's gifts and talents to make sure that the thing works the best way. And so in that regard, you begin to become interdependent and reliant upon other individuals. And we know that people aren't always going to, do the
Yeah.
thing that they
Gotcha.
say they're
Hey,
going
I
to
know
do.
that just as well as anyone, for sure.
Yeah, they're gonna make decisions that could impact them in a way that doesn't impact the mission or LTYC or what we're doing. And so that's been the toughest blows that build your body blow level up, your resilience is folks that you thought were going to be in a fold aren't in the fold, right? Folks that someone that was supposed to execute or deliver, they didn't execute or deliver. But the beautiful thing is, again, if you keep on the journey, which I've noticed, there's always fresh opportunity and fresh new daisies being, coming out the ground, And so that's where
Well,
the fun part is.
yeah, I love that. Just going back to the very beginning of you answering this question, just made me think of this meme that we've probably all seen on social media and whatever. Two people like digging for gold, whatever, and they're just one more strike away, and the one guy like gives up, and the gold's just on the other side of the wall, and the other guy's gonna keep going, right? Like sometimes we don't know, it's just
Yeah,
right there. We're just that close. So yeah,
yeah,
you gotta, yeah, I love that. I love that persistence.
yeah.
So one of my, as we slowly come to a wrap here, one of my standard questions I like to ask all my guests. Again, I'm all about health and wellness. This is not a health and wellness podcast per se, but I do like to ask my guests, what is your morning routine or a non-negotiable for your health look like?
So my morning routine is going to consist of normally apple cider vinegar shot,
Oh, love
um,
that.
apple cider vinegar shot, and hot tea for sure, and water. In addition to my, morning devotions, I'm going to say a prayer. I'm definitely going to normally have a affirmation, normally connected to some type of scripture or a quote, just to kind of get my thoughts going. And so I can take my time, getting together. And then a non-negotiable that's become a non-negotiable for me over the years are actually a couple of things now. Uh, Acupuncture and fire cupping,
Oh, cool.
uh, massage, and when the weather is very nice, definitely nice long walks. And another new negotiable that non-negotiable that I started last fall is reflexology.
Oh, very cool.
I think, those things have helped me to keep my mind sharp, especially in those high tense, stressful moments of running a small business and the ebbs and flows of that. Um, and of course, life and personal things and family and everything, just balancing it all. Those things help keep blood flow for me and keep, tension out my shoulders and neck. And, those things are really helpful for me to think clearly.
Awesome. I love that. So a couple things. Just again, uh, you might want to check this out yourself, and certainly the audience go back, as I'm not sure exactly when this episode is going to release, but maybe half a dozen episodes back, we had Dr. Tom on,
Mhm.
traditional Chinese medicine doctor, and we talked all about cupping, and I have my own cupping set behind me over here.
Yes.
So yeah, I love that. And a lot of people do apple cider vinegar, but I think you might be the first guest who does it first thing in the morning. So I'm going to give you
Yes.
props for that.
Yeah.
Staying on the, maybe it doesn't have to be physical health, maybe mental health, whatever, but more on the health realm. What's one thing you wish you would have started earlier, or if you could go back and tell your younger self, like, hey man, like start this.
Um, Probably a couple of things. Probably the health stuff that we're just talking about. Would have started that earlier. Um, would have started finding agreement with people earlier,
Ooh,
right?
I love that answer. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, find an agreement because oftentimes you're taught about again the expressiveness. Everyone has their own point of view. We often want the other people to understand our point of view, and then we, as humans, we get into this battle, power struggle, basically of point of views. But also in anything, family, business. I wish that I had learned 20 years ago to find the agreement because the disagreement is so present and so prevalent that oftentimes we get sucked into being in a place of disagreement with one another. And we look at the differences instead of the alikes and the similarities. And so we just, that's something for sure. And then saving money differently, you know, you're gonna always because personally for the business, not being as generous with things, maybe paying people less than what I could have paid, just thinking all of those things make sense, giving differently,
Right.
because you wanna be in a position where you can be reflective, and those three things for me stick out the most. There's agreement, saving, and definitely the health piece.
Yeah, I love that. Again, I think it's kind of fate that you mentioned that. Recently, I had one of my clients. I recommended they pick up the book Crucial Conversations. It's a book
Mm,
I've had for 20 years at least, and had been a long time since I read it. And I thought this is just a few weeks ago. I was like, "Hey man, I just recommended that to this person. I should probably reread it myself. I'm just in the process of rereading that again. How to have those conversations.
hmm
Again, those use the word agreements falls right in. Yeah. So I get no royalties. Anyone pick up Crucial Conversations. Actually, I heard it's on back order, so I think it's getting a resurgence here. But I love those. I love those answers there. As we
Awesome.
slowly come to a close here, I do want to, again, you're a charity. Always a struggle with, the funding and grants, all that you mentioned that. You do have a gift for the listeners as a way to also can help you guys raise funds as well. So I'd love for you to share to the audience, like what your gift for the audience is.
Yes. Our gift today is 15% off from any item purchased on our LTYC shop website. LTYC Shop is a source of us raising money for the organization. In addition to our brand awareness and visibility, we have branded hoodies, shirts, T-shirts, hats, uh, water bottles, and other merchandise that's available for a small donation fee. All proceeds go to support LTYC's development fund, which makes way and paves the way for supplies and materials for arts programming, supplies and materials for student performances, field trips, master classes, experiences, other charitable discounts that we may offer in certain programs. And so 15% off any item, and you would just plug in your code, the title of the podcast that you're listening to right now. That's the title that you want to plug in to your email to ensure you get your 15% discount to LTYC Shop.
Awesome. It's super generous. So everyone, number one, we'll have all of the links for the organization. If you want to connect with Darmell personally, his social media, whatever links he's provide us, we'll have that there, as well as the discount code to get your 15% off. And look at the swag he's wearing right now, man. This is some like really awesome hoodie and hat, very colorful, very cool. So why don't you get some really cool swag that you can wear and help a great cause at the same time and save 15%. It's a no-brainer. And like, hey, I know some of you who are subscribers to the podcast. I know you do pretty well for yourselves, right? So like, help a great organization out that's educating our youth in the arts and music and everything like that. So definitely go check out the link and purchase something. Last main question here. What's one action step that the listeners can take themselves in their own community to support the arts and youth empowerment?
I would say, get to your local community center, religious organization, or school, and inquire on how you could be involved in the offering of arts education at those places. Oftentimes, schools, religious organizations, and community centers are the hubs of neighborhoods and hubs of communities. And so that's the best way to have it be accessible. We must create equitable access to the performing and creative arts. The only way we can create access is to decide what pathways the arts can be available in the community. And I think those three locations are a cool and awesome place to start.
That's fabulous. So yeah, start locally in your own community for sure. Check out what Darnell and his organization is doing. Buy some swag, use a discount code, and let's make an impact for our youth. That's I think a huge important thing. And let's be honest, we're not going to get political here. We're wrapping things up, but like if we raise good little humans, they become good humans as they get older for policy and how they treat others. So
Awesome.
Darnell, I want to thank you again for being on the Deepak Sandy Show. Fantastic episode. I really loved it. Such a great message. Thank you again.
Thank you. God bless. And I appreciate us being on here.
Awesome. So I'm going to throw it back to J23, who's going to guide us out with some music. Don't forget to check out today's show sponsor in the show notes, as well as some resources for myself, as well as all of the links for Darnell and his organization and the discount code. So again, thanks everyone for listening to the Deepak Sandy Show. Remember, exceptional results for the exceptional you. Until next time. This episode is brought to you by Optimizers Magnesium Breakthrough. This is a product I've been using and our family's been using for 4 years already. What I love about it, it has 7 different forms of magnesium in it, all the forms that your body needs for all 400 processes that your body needs magnesium for. Most magnesium supplements have one form and usually a crummy form of magnesium. This has all 7 forms that your body needs. So click the link and get at least 10% off. Sometimes there's specials and you even get more. So check out Optimizers Magnesium Breakthrough.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company.
What you got?